Every night, your body goes through a powerful transformation. As you sleep, systems within your brain and body initiate a deep recovery process, one that involves muscle repair, hormone release, memory consolidation, and immune regeneration. But what many people don't realize is that one of the biggest barriers to these nighttime benefits is something incredibly common: eating the wrong kind of food too close to bedtime. Specifically, consuming high glycemic carbohydrates or sugary foods in the evening can completely disrupt one of your body's most critical recovery mechanisms: growth hormone release. Growth hormone, or GH, is essential for muscle development, fat metabolism, tissue repair, and overall physical resilience. The body produces this hormone in pulses throughout the day, but the largest and most impactful surge happens during the first phase of deep sleep, especially in the first 90 minutes. However, that release is tightly regulated by blood sugar and insulin levels. When you eat late at night, especially carbs, sweets, or starchy meals, you spike insulin levels. That insulin stays elevated for hours, and while it's present in the bloodstream, growth hormone release is inhibited. In simple terms, your body can't enter full recovery mode. So instead of rebuilding lean muscle, burning fat efficiently, or restoring damaged tissue, your body is stuck managing the metabolic chaos triggered by food. And the cost is high, not just in terms of missed gains at the gym, but also in slower recovery, lower energy the next day, and disrupted hormonal balance across the board. You may still be asleep, but internally, your body is busy dealing with blood sugar regulation when it should be in a deep anabolic state. There's a deeper neurological layer to this too. High insulin levels don't just interfere with GH. They also throw off the delicate balance between other hormones, particularly cortisol and melatonin. Cortisol, which should be at its lowest during sleep, tends to stay elevated when insulin is triggered at night. This blocks the brain's ability to downshift into parasympathetic dominance, the rest and repair mode you need to access high-quality sleep. The result is shallower sleep, more nighttime awakenings, and less time spent in the deep stages where muscle repair and hormonal recalibration take place. From a performance standpoint, this is devastating. You can train hard, take supplements, and follow a disciplined routine. But if you eat the wrong foods too close to bed, you're handicapping the very processes that give you results. You're putting in the work, but your biology can't capitalize on it. And that creates a cycle. Poor recovery leads to weaker training sessions, lower testosterone, increased cravings, and even more nighttime eating. It becomes a loop of frustration, not progress. But here's the encouraging part: this is fully reversible. Simply shifting your last meal to 3 hours before bedtime and focusing on foods that have a minimal impact on blood sugar, like lean proteins, leafy greens, and healthy fats, can radically change your overnight recovery. You don't have to cut carbs completely, but timing them earlier in the day when insulin sensitivity is higher allows you to use them for fuel instead of letting them interfere with your body's natural repair mechanisms. The bottom line is this: what you eat before bed is either going to support or suppress one of your body's most important biological events. Growth hormone release. You can train your body to grow stronger in your sleep, or you can unknowingly block that potential with a late night snack. It's not about eating less, it's about eating smarter. Let your last meal set the stage for growth, recovery, and real transformation. Because that's where progress is made, not just in the gym, but while you sleep. Sleep is a finely tuned hormonal process. It's not just about turning off the lights and closing your eyes. It's about shifting your body and brain into a state where repair, detoxification, and growth can happen efficiently. At the center of this shift is a delicate balance between two key hormones, cortisol and melatonin. Cortisol keeps you alert and ready for stress. Melatonin tells your body it's time to rest, recover, and enter the deeper stages of sleep. But the foods you eat before bed can disrupt this balance in powerful ways, keeping you wired when you should be winding down. Cortisol follows a natural rhythm throughout the day. It peaks in the morning to help you wake up and gradually drops in the evening, allowing melatonin to rise and signal the onset of sleep. However, certain foods can elevate cortisol levels when you least want them to, particularly those high in refined sugars, processed fats, artificial additives, or excessive sodium. These ingredients activate the sympathetic nervous system, the same system that handles fight or flight responses. Your brain interprets this sudden metabolic jolt as stress, and in response, it pumps out cortisol to maintain control over your energy and alertness. Now, when cortisol is high, melatonin can't rise properly. The two hormones are antagonistic in nature. When one goes up, the other goes down. So if you're eating food that spikes cortisol, especially within an hour or two before bedtime, you're sending mixed signals to your circadian rhythm. Your brain might feel tired, but your body stays wired. You toss, turn, struggle to fall asleep, or wake up during the night. Even if you manage to sleep, it's often shallow, fragmented, and lacking the deep cycles that allow true recovery. There's also a psychological side to this. High cortisol at night doesn't just disrupt sleep. It also fuels anxiety. That sense of restlessness or mental overstimulation many people feel when they try to fall asleep is often rooted in hormonal imbalance, not just racing thoughts. Your body is in a reactive state, not a restorative one. And when this happens night after night, it slowly chips away at your mental clarity, emotional stability, and physical performance. Even healthy foods, when mistimed, can contribute to this problem. For example, protein-heavy meals that include large amounts of red meat or stimulants like dark chocolate can increase catecholamines like adrenaline and noradrenaline. These also elevate cortisol and delay melatonin production. The key isn't just what you eat, it's when you eat it and how it affects your neurochemical environment during the transition into sleep. The good news is that the body is incredibly responsive once you start respecting this hormonal rhythm. When you reduce cortisol triggers at night, by avoiding sugar, stimulants, and inflammatory foods, you give melatonin the chance to rise naturally. Your brain cools down, body temperature drops, heart rate slows, and your system enters a state of parasympathetic dominance. That's when deep, restorative sleep becomes possible. A simple shift in nighttime eating habits, such as favoring calming herbal teas, magnesium-rich vegetables, or small portions of slow-digesting proteins, can dramatically improve this cortisol-melatonin ratio. You begin to fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up feeling more refreshed. This isn't about willpower or sleep hacks. It's about removing the friction points your body is constantly battling against. If you want better sleep, sharper focus, stronger recovery, and more emotional stability, then mastering this hormonal transition is essential. It starts by understanding that every bite of food you take before bed is sending a signal. That signal is either telling your body to stay alert and stressed, or to relax, restore, and rebuild. The choice is yours, and it begins with what's on your plate. When it comes to sleep, one of the most overlooked yet critical factors is your core body temperature. It's not something we often think about, but your body must lower its internal temperature by about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to fall asleep and stay asleep effectively. This drop in temperature acts as a physiological signal, triggering the onset of deep, restorative sleep cycles. But certain eating habits, especially consuming high-fat, heavy meals before bed, can completely block this cooling process. This is what I call the thermogenic trap, the false sense of relaxation that heavy meals provide while secretly disrupting your sleep from the inside out. When you eat a large or fat, dense meal in the evening, especially close to bedtime, your body has to prioritize digestion. And digestion is a heat-producing process. It demands blood flow to the gut, ramps up metabolic activity, and raises core temperature as a result. In simple terms, instead of your body preparing for sleep by cooling down, it's heating up. This conflicts directly with your brain's natural drive to enter sleep, particularly the deep stages that are most restorative. Now, this may seem like a minor inconvenience, feeling a little warm or bloated before bed, but the consequences run deeper. Sleep studies have shown that elevated core body temperature at night leads to increased sleep latency, meaning it takes longer to fall asleep. Reduced slow wave sleep T, the deepest and most physically restorative stage, and more frequent nighttime awakenings. You might sleep for 7 hours, but your sleep quality is significantly compromised. You wake up groggy, mentally foggy, and physically unrefreshed. This effect is compounded by the specific type of fats consumed. Saturated fats from greasy, processed, or fried foods take longer to digest and place an even greater thermal load on the body. These fats not only delay cooling, but also trigger low-grade inflammation in the gut, which activates the immune system and keeps your nervous system on high alert. That subtle inflammation isn't just a digestive issue. It becomes a full body signal that something's off. And when your nervous system is in that reactive state, sleep becomes fragmented and shallow. Let's also consider the hormonal implications. Nighttime digestion, especially of fatty foods, can interfere with the release of melatonin, the hormone responsible for signaling sleep onset and regulating your circadian rhythm. When melatonin production is suppressed, you're more likely to stay in lighter stages of sleep, missing out on the deeper phases where muscle repair, memory consolidation, and detoxification take place. At the same time, insulin sensitivity is lower at night, meaning your body is more prone to storing that late night meal as fat instead of using it as fuel. So, you're not only compromising sleep, you're creating a metabolic environment that promotes fat gain and hormonal imbalance. There's also a psychological element. Heavy meals often come with emotional eating, comfort food, late night cravings, and stress-induced snacking. These habits may offer temporary satisfaction, but often lead to guilt, disrupted sleep, and morning fatigue. Over time, this cycle becomes self-perpetuating. Poor sleep leads to more cravings, less energy for exercise, and even more reliance on heavy, satisfying meals at night to wind down. The thermogenic trap isn't just physiological. It becomes behavioral and eventually habitual. But the solution is within reach. By shifting your last large meal to earlier in the evening and keeping late night food light, easy to digest, and low in fat, you allow your body to follow its natural cooling rhythm. This could mean a small portion of protein with leafy greens, some steamed vegetables with olive oil, or even a magnesium-rich smoothie. The goal isn't starvation. It's regulation. Give your body the space it needs to cool, calm, and restore. Your sleep isn't just about what time you go to bed. It's about what you ask your body to do leading up to it. If you feed it heat, it will stay active. If you feed it balance, it will slip into the deep, healing sleep that powers everything you want to achieve the next day. Neurochemistry is the silent conductor of your nightly rest. Long before you actually fall asleep, your brain begins a delicate symphony of chemical shifts, priming your body for rest, repair, and regeneration. Central to this is the conversion of serotonin to melatonin, a neurochemical pathway that determines how quickly you fall asleep, how deeply you stay asleep, and how well your brain performs during the dream, heavy REM cycles. But when you snack late at night, especially on the wrong kinds of foods, you interfere with this process in ways most people don't realize. What feels like a harmless indulgence can actually sabotage the very chemistry required for restorative sleep. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of well-being, mood, stability, and emotional balance. As daylight fades and evening sets in, serotonin levels naturally begin to convert into melatonin, the hormone that triggers the onset of sleep and helps regulate your circadian rhythm. This conversion is highly sensitive to internal environmental factors, especially blood sugar fluctuations, inflammatory responses, and neurotransmitter competition, all of which are influenced directly by what you eat before bed. Certain late night foods, particularly those high in sugar, refined grains, or processed additives, spike blood glucose. This sharp rise and fall in blood sugar levels causes instability in the brain's ability to regulate serotonin. Even if serotonin is produced earlier in the day, a nighttime crash caused by poor food choices can limit its availability and disrupt the conversion pathway. Without sufficient serotonin reserves and stability, melatonin levels don't rise as they should. The result: you may feel exhausted but find it hard to fall asleep. Or you may fall asleep but experience frequent disruptions, shallow cycles, or reduced REM sleep. The stage responsible for emotional processing, dreaming, and memory integration. But the interference doesn't stop there. Late night eating often introduces a flood of competing amino acids into the bloodstream, especially when the meal is rich in protein and carbohydrates. These amino acids compete with tryptophan, the key precursor to serotonin, for access to the brain. When tryptophan gets crowded out, serotonin production drops, and melatonin can't be synthesized effectively. This creates a biochemical bottleneck where the ingredients for deep sleep are present, but they're not allowed to do their job. You've essentially short-circuited your brain's sleep system by overloading it with the wrong input. Inflammation plays a role as well. Many common evening snacks, such as processed meats, high-sodium chips, sugary desserts, or even artificial sweeteners, trigger low-grade inflammation in the gut and brain. This inflammation disrupts the delicate balance of neurotransmitters, delays melatonin onset, and can even lead to increased nighttime cortisol release. In short, you stay in a state of alertness instead of shifting into restfulness. Over time, this creates a neurological pattern that your body begins to repeat: eat, disrupt, fail to recover, crave, repeat. The loop is subtle but powerful. Even REM sleep, the phase linked to creativity, learning, emotional processing, and memory consolidation, is vulnerable. Without the proper melatonin signaling and brainwave activity that begins in the early stages of sleep, REM cycles become shorter and less efficient. You wake up not only tired but mentally dull, emotionally off-center, and less resilient to stress. This kind of cognitive dullness is often misattributed to stress, overwork, or lack of motivation, but it's often rooted in poor sleep architecture. Architecture that's been silently disrupted by your nighttime eating habits. The brain is incredibly responsive. By avoiding late night snacks, especially those that are processed, sugary, or heavy in artificial compounds, you give your neurochemistry room to function properly. Tryptophan flows freely, serotonin stays stable, and melatonin rises on cue. Your sleep becomes deeper, your dreams more vivid, and your mind clearer in the morning. This is not just about sleep. It's about reclaiming your mental clarity, emotional balance, and physical performance. What you feed your body feeds your brain. And when you stop sabotaging your neurochemistry with poorly timed food, you unlock a version of yourself that's sharper, calmer, and more fully alive. Ask ChatGPT